Sup, guys? We're back and we're going to be continuing our NFL draft prospect series. And we have completed our quarterback part of the series. We're now going to be moving on to our wide receiver portion. And to kick us off with the wide receivers, we're going to be talking about the projected first round pick out of Arizona, Tet McMillian. And let's get right into it.
Yeah, so Ted McMillian is a big wide receiver. He's 6'5", 212 pounds. On his past year with Arizona, he had 84 receptions, 1,300 receiving yards, and 8 receiving touchdowns. So he had a great year, and he had a insane year, actually. They were mid. Arizona had a mid-season, but he did his thing, and he went insane. And I don't think we were ever going to forget about that game against New Mexico. He had 304 receiving yards and 4 touchdowns. That was a big game for him. He's just a monster. And that's why I really feel like that game really boosted his draft stock. And that game was the pinnacle of his recently last collegiate season at Arizona. Now I'm going to hand it to Vasily, where he's going to talk about his comparison, his skills, his struggles, and some of his plays at Arizona.
Yeah, as Rico mentioned, 6'5", 212 pounds. Like, that is a big bodied physical receiver. Like, off the bat, you can tell just by those measurements. And
hmm
Tet McMillian, though, he's a little bit different from some of those big receivers that we see in today's football because a lot of those guys are kind of slower. They're can't really beat you deep, can't really beat you on inside routes, but Ted McMillan can do those things. And he does things like take slants to the house, he can juke you out, he can run from the slot. Like, he's really just an overall weapon, like, who plays like a 6'2" receiver, but he's 6'5", and he gives you that added bonus where you can go up, make big catches. He's really fun to watch. He's explosive. And in Arizona, like, they didn't have a ton to do on offense other than just throw up the rock and let him go get it. And he delivered over the past 2 seasons in college. He had the most contested catches and the most explosive plays out of any receiver in college football. So, I mean, he's producing, he's making highlight reel plays every single week, and he's just a super exciting player. And, I mean, the clips that we're going to get into in a little bit are going to just show you why he's projected to go so high in the draft. But for him, his main strengths are the jump ball, just separating from some of these corners who just can't bring him down. I mean, 6'5", 212, a lot of these corners might be 5'10", 5'11". He does not go to the ground easy, and he's not easy to get your hands on either. He can juke you out, like I said. Some of his weaknesses are against the press, despite being like a really big receiver, he can struggle against some physical corners. And his route tree, being a 6'5" guy, it's hard for him to kind of get low in his breaks and make a cut. But he still does a good job at both of those things. And one thing we did notice while looking at some of the clips is that he holds the ball loose, which, it's a nitpicky thing, but that's a real issue when you look at it because these NFL corners, I mean, these guys are studying film like
Yeah,
24/7.
definitely.
They're going to see some of these issues and definitely try to pick up on it because just trying to match up with Ted McMillan one-on-one is not going to be an easy thing to do. They're going to need every advantage they can get. But yeah, with that being said, let's get into some of these clips from this past dominant season he had at Arizona, and you guys could see his skill set on full display. So in this first clip, just going to be a simple goal line fade, throw it up to the 6'5" guy. He's going to make a play on the ball. He doesn't get it at first contact, but he's going to keep his eyes on the ball, which is a great thing. He's going to grab the ball being interfered with and score. Just a showing of his dominance, the corner, even when you think that the ball is getting tipped, even when you think he's not going to catch it, he's grabbing it and he's scoring a touchdown. Great play by him. Next play, just a standard deep ball, like quarterback knows this guy is going to come down with the ball, puts it up, out, and McMillan's just going to go up, snag it. Corner just cannot get up there with him, can't stop him from making that play. Just as simple as it gets, throw it up, Ted's going to make the play. In the last clip, you're going to see him pretty close to the end zone here. He's going to snag the ball around the 5-yard line. A lot of receivers here would just kind of make this catch, maybe go to bounds, go down. But again, like, he's a big guy. You see that on all these clips. He uses his size to his advantage. And this corner is going to try to bring him down. He's just going to shake him off, no effort. get into the end zone. And there on that clip, you do see the issue that I was talking about with that ball security, because he's holding the ball out like this with one hand. Now, if you're doing that, in open field, it's not as bad, but the guys are right there. Those defenders are right there. Being that close to the end zone, like I've seen way too many times in NFL games where a guy will be this close to scoring and he just doesn't have both hands on the ball and he'll get knocked out of the back of the end zone for a touchback. And those plays are just devastating for a team to recover from, because every drive you don't get the chance to get that close to scoring a touchdown. So, just a minor issue, but it could turn major if he doesn't figure that out. But yeah, with that being said, with his skill set being done, we're going to go into those comparisons that we were talking about. So the big comparison that we like is Drake London, the wide receiver for the Atlanta Falcons. Drake London, similar size, 6'5". And Tet does a lot of his routes, does a lot of his plays out of the slot, which Drake London did this past season. And, you might be thinking like 6'5" out of the slot. That sounds weird, but that's a new thing in the league where these guys know they can get big mismatches out of the slot with some of those bigger receivers. And Tet and Drake London, just really similar, big physical guys who can move well. Really like that comparison for him. Kind of like a middle, what he could be, but not the most. Could be like a Michael Pittman. Both of them, again, big receivers, but Pittman kind of had a down year this past year. Doesn't have the crazy speed. Like McMillian has decent speed, but it's not all the way up there. His 40's in the 4.5s, which is pretty close to Michael Pittman's 40. And then at the bottom, it is hard to see him being a bust because he does so many things well. He has great hands, but Quentin Johnston is a guy who kind of shows his athleticism, but isn't there every down. He makes some mistakes. But overall, really like Ted's skill set. And now I'm going to give it back to Rico, and he's going to talk about his NFL outlook and some teams we'd like to see him play for.
Yeah, so Tetairoa McMillian for me is a guy that, like Vasily said, he's tall and lanky, but he plays with finesse. He's not really a strong receiver that's gonna go up and play that physical. He just really catches it over guys and not like creates the space on them. So he's a finesse receiver who's gonna like slide by tackles and really get into the gaps and make some plays. But I feel like in this draft he's kind of overrated because you watch the tape, he doesn't really do too many things spectacular. I feel like his height gives him a big advantage. And in the NFL, you can't just rely on your height. So we gotta see how he does in the NFL against better competition. And now I'm gonna talk about what teams are potentially looking to draft him in this upcoming draft. So the three main teams that me and Facility came up with that are gonna draft T-Mac are the Jets, Cowboys, and the Panthers. Now looking at all these teams, the Panthers are probably the least projected one that are going to draft T-Mac, but they're still an option. I mean, Panthers still need an actual wide receiver one that Bryce Young could really trust. And I'm not saying Adam Thielen isn't one. I'm just saying that Adam Thielen is getting old, and they're going to need a younger option, a younger, reliable, more explosive option that could carry the team on his back on the offensive end and do well with Bryce Young. But for the other two teams, I like them drafting Tet more because you got the Jets and the Cowboys. Both of these teams have a bona fide wide receiver one, Garrett Wilson and CeeDee Lamb. But if they both get Tet, either one of them, whichever one gets him, they both have a guy that could be a wide receiver two and put their starting wide receiver, he'll go under their wing and he can learn from those guys like CD and Garrett Wilson. And he doesn't have all the pressure to just be a stand-up guy, a standout guy right off the bat. He doesn't have to be the guy for his team. He's not going to get all the shine. The spotlight's not going to be on him. He'll be the wide receiver 2 or maybe wide receiver 3 and they'll ease him in. But at the end of the season, if these two teams do draft him, either ever one, I could see them like working him in. He's going to get good amount of reps and he's just going to be a good wide receiver 2. And that's why the Jets and Cowboys are definitely favorites to draft this guy. But that's all we have for you guys on T-Mac, Tetairoa McMillian. This is a very intriguing prospect. He is very lanky, like, man, 6'5". That's not something we see all the time. So I would like to see what team drafts him, what he's going to do in the NFL. And this is going to be a good pick because Tet, man, he's different. We all know that. But thanks for indulging in this video, and we're going to see you guys not too later. See y'all.
Peace.